All right. Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, December 18th, and it is the regularly scheduled Water Pollution Control Authority meeting. There was a posted agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? There should be, right? Did we give anybody that one, or is that, I guess I can change it? Or can you change it?
I think I could change it. Does it have to come a motion from the commission to add a new item?
Was it again?
It's adding the minimum discussion about adding a minimum threshold
Right, okay.
to the regs.
So I would like then, can I make my own motion? Yeah. I need Joe for. Okay. So I'd like to add discussion to the agenda of an updated process to the flow monitoring requirement that we have on proposed development to have a minimum threshold.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Good. All right. So that's added to the agenda. All right. Any other proposed changes to the agenda? Seeing none. The first item is approval of the November 20th meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Chris.
A second to approve.
Second. Discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. All right. Old business item number 1, to hear update on the resolution of the extension of sewer line and sewer lateral.
Supposed to be lateral.
Okay, lateral connection at 186-212 Hillside Road.
Okay, so a motion was passed at last month's meeting, allowing the execution of the approval of this connection by the desk. So this is just an update that the desk has executed that approval for this connection. The applicant did meet the certain contingencies that were laid out in the commission's approval last month.
Okay.
That approval was issued on the 16th. The applicant's representative has confirmed his receipt. So it's gone out via email, also via USPS, and we are public noticing that decision.
Sounds good.
The update.
Any questions? All right. Thank you. Item number 2 under old business, to hear update on Durrell Pump Station easement.
We haven't talked about this one in a while, so I thought the commission might want an update. So back in September, the September meeting, this commission had approved the easement and acceptance of the pump station. This was pending final approval by the first selectman. Since that time, the easement was signed by first selectman Gerber. However, Operation Hope legal counsel reviewed that approval and has some language modifications to be made. So that approval is now pending with Operation Hope's legal counsel.
Okay. And their comments were related to the easement?
Related to the easement.
Okay. All right, so do we have any idea on a timeline for?
Our town council has not provided an idea of what the timeline would be for that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Moving on to new business, to hear update on, consider and discuss WPCA policy for requesting a sewer line dated March 17th, 2021.
So this policy came to the WPCA desk, and John will help me in supporting the discussion. Came to the desk's attention while we were reviewing the 186-212 Hillside Road decision. And it came to our attention because we were looking for it online as part of our rules and regulations and found that it was not included in our posted rules and regulations. We reviewed this with town council, who indicated if we would like that to be a rule, then we have to go through the formal process of adopting it as a rule. So this is why it's on tonight's agenda. It's one to refresh this commission, because I don't believe that all current members were likely on the commission back in 2021, to introduce the policy to this commission. It's possible that there's modifications that the commission may like to make to that policy, and then to decide if we really do want to adopt it as a rule. And John, I think you've had also some information. regarding the policy.
I totally agree. And the reason we brought this up for discussion is just to bring it to the commission's attention and the public's attention, is that the way it reads now, I've been over this, if I can use Carriage Drive as an example, everybody was on board with that, but this project that Michelle spoke about, it's only one, it's a commercial unit. So do we have to change the reading for commercial? As
The
a
policy speaks primarily to residential. It does not mention commercial, so that's one item the commission may consider for modification before adopting it as a potential rule.
Yeah, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I mean, if you're going to deal with like residential, everybody gets on board, everybody's on board. With commercial, not everybody might be on board with the cost is far as the.
Well, I guess the issue is, I mean, the way it's currently written, if there are fewer than 4 houses on the proposed line, the commission will not consider the request. So,
Those are houses though.
correct.
We're talking, yeah.
So if we have 4 commercial properties,
Yeah, we're just bringing it up to your attention. You have commercial properties, so.
and this is more of a cost sharing mechanism, right? I mean, so a commercial property, if they wanted to join in, they can, they just have to pay for it.
And so we may want to consider clarifying language in the policy that speaks to commercial. Otherwise, someone may be reading between the lines.
Chris?
I had a question too, because I looked online too on the same thing, because we have from 2012, we have rules for new subdivisions to connect to the sewer line. I think in that one there. So, and then I just kind of general is like, do we have a map? Do we have a map that has our service area?
We do have a
So,
sewer use map.
so do we have a service area, or is the whole town our service area?
We have the service area map, and that's what we referred to when we were making the decision on Hillside. So if you recall last month's discussion, it was a consideration, is this within the service area or not? When we're able to magnify down on the map, that was actually right on the border. So they were actually included within our sewer use area. But
And that map, I can't find online.
yeah, and I don't believe that it is online. I think it's part of,
I don't think it's public information. So, I mean, I'm sure it's foilable, but
But yeah,
we don't want to.
so then if someone comes in, asks for a sewer like, to hook into it, I think the first question we ask is, are they in the service area?
Certainly.
Because it's kind of, it
That's all.
seems a little confusing when you read this. Here is like, it kind of seems open-ended on my part. And I'm like, and then we're sharing 50% of it. And I don't, and it's kind of like, well.
I mean, I can give some background because I was on the board when we did this, and we did this because there was a group of single-family resident homeowners that wanted to tie in.
This
And
particular.
this gave them
Access.
a means to do it where otherwise it might not have been cost effective for individual owners to try to tie in short term.
So then I'm taking a developer's point of view here and I'm saying, okay, well, I see a lot of people hooking into it.
I want to pause you for a second.
Yeah.
Are there even, I mean, this might be a non-issue. Are there areas of the town that are zoned commercial that aren't already
And I'm looking at,
sewer accessible? I don't know if there are.
I don't know.
So, I mean, that's one reason why there may not be any reason to even explore the opportunity of tying commercial in here, because there may not be a area within our service area that's zoned commercial that doesn't already have access to the sewer.
We have to take a look at Greenfield Hill
I'm
area.
not sure, are we even in the sewer, or are we in the service area?
No one knows where the
I
map.
mean, long term, I would like to be included, but I don't think it's ever happening, not in my lifetime, so.
Yeah, I would just,
So I don't know if it's worth even, I mean, we didn't just decide one day, like, we want to have a policy like this. A group came in front of us and we decided we would like there to be a policy so that we can
but then
connect people.
why do we need, it seemed like we kind of had this for Carriage Drive, to put this in for Carriage Drive. Does this need to be a permanent document? Should it just be as needed basis?
For discussion, and so if the commission sees that there's a need for this in the future,
Right.
these future decisions off of, I think the consideration is make it a rule because it becomes more formal and less subject to being challenged legally.
The other,
Yeah, so perhaps you can provide some context here. So it's any four houses on a proposed line. Is there it doesn't look like there's a distance from the existing line that makes any four houses eligible, right?
yeah, I guess not. I mean, so we set the limit as 4 so that it was actually a group of, it wasn't just random, I want to connect and then let's do some sort of cost sharing.
Right.
So that at least put a threshold to it. I mean, the homeowners have a stake in it too, so.
So the cost, I'm just trying to understand the concept so that we can then
Mhm.
discuss the implications of commercial versus residential. So the homeowners have to be adjacent to each other, or could be anywhere along the line leading to where the last homeowner is.
I don't really know. What I know is that my understanding, and I haven't looked at this in a long time, it's a 50-50 cost split between us and the group of homeowners. So if there were 4 homeowners a mile away from our service area,
Main road, let's just say, for example.
even half of the cost is
Yeah.
still not gonna be worthwhile versus them all putting in new septic systems. Cause half the cost of a mile of new pipeline is gonna be
Yeah, no,
pretty
no, no.
expensive.
I'm just trying to conceptualize what the guardrails are.
Right, that's a good question, because how far does it go? We could use Carriage Drive, it was just a straight street. Like that.
It was a small-
It was just, yeah.
It was a small project for any one homeowner would have been cost prohibitive.
Corners, go around bends and cul-de-sacs, that's maybe a different thing that we would have to look at. This particular, what brought it up to Michelle and myself, was that this is commercial, so, and he's bearing the cost of it all to tie into the sewer, so, which is unusual, right? So.
Sorry, what?
So again, I mean, this being commercial, so if we're going back to the hillside example, this is what brought this to our attention. But I think internally, when we're looking at this policy, it's not speaking to commercial. So one question is, is there a need for it to speak to commercial? Or is there not a need because commercially, we're expecting that whoever's requesting that extension, they're paying for it.
This was a residential kind of assistance type of thing more than,
And I think too,
but I also just don't know that it's applicable anyway.
well, their septic systems were failing or.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there was an environmental benefit to supporting them to do this versus paying. So I think, I mean, rough numbers, they might have been paying by themselves upwards of 50,000 to connect to the sewer, or maybe even more, which is roughly the cost or more than the cost of a new septic system. So why, there was no financial reason for them to connect into our system, which is the theoretically better societal option. So that's why we did something like this, so that it would be cost beneficial for them to tie in. That's kind of the background on it. I don't know if they.
Would it make any sense?
Yep.
Excuse me. Would it make any sense to add in some language let's say I wanted to build a bakery a little bit further up on Hillside and connect to the sewer system. Could you put some definitions in here of whether it's applicable to me or not as a single business? And do I bear the entire cost? Maybe there's a bullet that we should add to this document that kind of just lays that out there so you can point to it in case someone brings it up or no.
So in the way it's currently written, which granted is probably not perfect, but if a bakery even wanted to try to utilize this, you would have to find a minimum of 3 homeowners to agree to join at the same time as you. You can't, no single person or entity can just try to get a 50-50 cost share.
Right, but that's only for the cost share, right? If you were gonna bear the whole cost,
You can, yeah, of course.
So, I mean, the simplest thing to do would be to say, instead of homes, we say properties.
Yeah, instead of 4 houses, 4 properties. Or 4 entities.
We could do that.
Because then if there's an eventual commercial district in an area
That opens up.
adjacent to it, then 4 commercial connections could do the same thing in the same way that 4 homes do it. There's not a cost differential between providing this service to a commercial space and to a residential unit, right?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
That would be my suggestion for,
They have different rates though. Do they have different rates, commercial to residential, John?
Sewer rates,
Yeah, sewer rates or no, it's all the same.
that's something that talked
Yeah,
about.
we've never,
Right, yeah, exactly.
we've never explored.
their costs in terms of having grease interceptors and things like that may be higher in terms of
Right, yeah, exactly.
they have to do related to it, but not the actual connection, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
They're still metered based off of water.
I mean, I personally like the idea of not excluding, of not cornering us. This language does seem very specific in general, and maybe it's something that gets revisited at some point to be more broad and not so specific to the one circumstance that came up. But I think a good start is changing the language from being referring to houses and residential to properties.
So in 3.5 years since this policy, no one else has leveraged it. I guess I would want to know what the town attorney thinks in terms of if we just let sleeping dogs lie and when somebody comes back to us, we attempt to leverage this as a guidance, but not necessarily a regulation or a rule that.
And he said if it's not formalized as a rule, it could be subject to challenge in a future appeal, just to be aware of that.
Right. If we were to reject somebody from this thing. I mean, there's no appeals gonna come if we offer a 50-50 cost share with somebody who comes forward.
Some approvals,
Sure, yeah, exactly.
but agreed.
Yeah, I guess I would
And
just.
to make this a policy, to make this a policy you can point to, wouldn't you want the town attorney to
Mhm.
review this before, we make use of this or no?
That's what I would think,
Or
yeah.
there-
I mean, I agree. I think that if we are gonna try to turn this into an actual WPCA rule or whatever, I would like his comments on the actual the language itself, maybe some suggestions on how we improve it, things like removing house, replaced with building unit, entity, whatever. I mean, some sort of legal language that, yeah, also just protects us from challenges of bias or any of that type of stuff too. So, and I'd also just be curious about his opinion on, does he think we need something like this?
I don't know if he's gonna weigh in on that.
Okay.
I think that has to come from this group.
Okay.
But I think that Phil would definitely weigh in on any proposed language changes or what he sees as language that could be strengthened if it were to become part of the rules. So is what the commission asking is that the desk go back to the town attorney with proposal, like, will the commission be making any red lines to the existing policy for us to bring to the town council?
Chris?
What do other towns do? I think we should reach out to what the other towns do if they're doing this, because to be honest with you, I think we're being very generous and over generous.
Yeah.
I think if we change it to properties, I would just be a homeowner here and I would look down the line, I would say, okay, I'm gonna get my 4 homeowners right here next to the line and say, hey, guys, you wanna be on the sewer system? The town's gonna split 50% of it. It looks like everyone's almost kind of failing it, and you know, it's kind of, I think it's kind of almost leaves us open more for issues in the future. So
Well,
I think we should look.
capacity lane, so I mean, I don't know.
50%, like the taxpayers of the town is splitting a benefit to only 4 people Or-
Taxpayers.
all the time, yeah. Well,
No, this is coming out of WPCA funds, not tax.
but
It's actually the sewer users that are helping foot the bill though. But it's coming out of WPCA funds. So it's actually the current sewer users that are helping to cost share getting new users on, which ultimately does benefit the existing sewer users because there's more flow, so more. I mean, it's a long-term good deal for us to have more houses on our system as long as there's capacity in the system, which we have capacity language in there.
it seems like we're being very generous, and this is,
I also think you're kind of oversimplifying how easy it is to get 4 people to agree. I mean, if I put in a new septic system 5 years ago, there's no chance you're getting me to agree to it.
that, it's just,
Carriage Drive got 6 people to agree, and then they said, go ahead. One person said, yeah, no, I'm not doing it.
Right, exactly.
and I don't think it'll ever be really utilized.
Which is also why we said 75% out of all of the eligible homes have to accept. So it wasn't just you pool any 4 people.
But it's just, I don't know, I just see us with something like this, just almost opening us to a little bit issues down the road. And I think either we should have the attorney look at it or see what other towns do. But I definitely agree, we should have the attorneys look at it.
We could, I mean.
You don't want to be in a position where you get 4 folks on Aaron Hill who say, we want to be on the sewer system and we want you to pay 50%.
Yeah,
Right.
you get one guy that just wants to stick it to someone. I'll foot half of it, you pay the rest.
I mean, so yeah, it does say 75% of the homeowners on the proposed line. So theoretically,
Yeah, you have to get.
we were running it
It's
from
not just 4 at the
Okay.
end.
wherever it ends on or something all the way up to Aaron Hill, then you're talking like a mega project with
Yes.
20 plus homes on it.
Or the minimum, right? And, you know, you could have 1,000 as the maximum, but 750 of those have to agree with Diane.
Exactly.
At which point it, in my opinion, it's a tremendous opportunity.
Right,
To
exactly.
have a cost sharing on the WPCA side to extend the sewer line. So the opposite kind of
Well,
perspective.
I mean, yeah, frankly, I don't even care if other towns have a policy like this. I believe it's a good deal for us if people leverage this thing, which I don't think it's going to be well leveraged, but
But, you know, it's hard to say what's gonna happen in the future. And if there's something that happens further up a line that brings a sewer line up, then where
Right.
does it go from there?
so, I mean, yeah, personally, I'm all for a cost sharing that expands our system responsibly. And so I don't really care if another town does it, but I definitely would like Phil's input on the language, how we can make it better, all that kind of stuff. I guess what are the next steps besides that? I mean, if we wanted to actually turn this into a formal policy. This is step, I don't remember what the right terminology is.
Policies have to be approved by RTM and all that.
Rule, okay. So a formal rule, I mean, obviously, we're discussing it tonight, then
It'll be similar to what
Biden,
we did last month when we had a public hearing
okay,
to adopt it.
okay. So that's probably a couple meetings down the line. I think first, let's get the language maybe in a,
So is there any language modifications the commission wants to make prior to bringing it to the town attorney?
I guess,
There are fewer than 4 properties.
I don't know if we want to leave a little homework items for folks. Do you guys want to send me any comments or thoughts or something, or either not to me and directly to Michelle or something by, I don't know, 2 weeks or something, and then she can send comments plus this to Phil for his review and approval, incorporate it into a more legit document, and then potentially at next meeting, we can, or February meeting, depending on if one works,
Sounds
we
good.
can meet to actually review it.
I have one comment.
Sure.
I have one comment. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. In the document itself, and I remember from Carriage Drive, the paving is going to be covered by the town, 100%. Now, if you're talking about houses that are, half a mile away times whatever 6, that's a pretty expensive paving job. And what do you do about the folks that don't want to participate but are in the middle someplace? But I think that in the next area, I believe we said that 50% of what was it? 50% of the total estimated cost of the project, less paving costs.
Right.
I think that the paving costs ought to be included in this because we don't know what we're getting into as far as the distance. There's a lot of property up there.
Comment is well taken. I think we just need Phil to kind of opine on that. I don't know if we can say the town has to cover something. I mean, we don't have that kind of authority, so we might not be able to say that. So either that, or we might need somebody from the town to agree to this policy or rule, sorry. Rule.
And I'm assuming, does it have to be a town-owned road? Should I think about private road or town road?
If it's private, we would need an easement.
Or they need to come down and connect at the,
Or, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right, so all comments to Michelle, are you okay with that? By, what's a date that you want to give us till?
Considering it's the holiday.
Oh, exactly.
Do the first, what is it, the week of the
6th.
6th? Yes.
The week of the 6th. Okay, so everybody's got till the week of the 6th to get comments to Michelle. At that point, she'll send the comments and the current document to Phil. Maybe, I don't know if Phil can either join us for a discussion on the 15th or.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That might be the best way to try to handle it. All right, good discussion. Anything else on new rule, not policy? All right, item number 2 under new business, election of officers. How's this done?
Somebody's got to nominate a chairman and a
Chair and a vice chair.
chair.
There are only 2, I think, right? 2 officers?
That's correct.
I'll nominate. Wait a second. Do we have Robert's, is there, what do I have to say here?
I have no
I
idea.
don't know.
Who do we have for the incumbents right now?
I am an active incumbent and we currently have a vacated seat for vice chair because Joe is no longer on the board.
Oh, yeah.
What is your term up now, or do you get not?
No.
We just need a vice chair then.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think I still have to, I think Joe incorrectly nominated me for 4 years last year, which you can't do.
How long can you nominate?
1 year.
Oh, so you are up then.
So I am up, so if someone else wants it. Otherwise, feel free.
So I'll go ahead and nominate Matt for chair and Rob for vice chair.
Second.
Second by Chris, all in favor? Unanimous. All right. Thanks, guys.
Congratulations.
Yep. Brett.
Rob, I'm sorry you inherited such a thankless job.
No problem. I'm sure the hourly rate goes up now, though, right?
Only be.
All right. Item number 3 under new business, to hear and approve 2025 WPCA Commission meeting dates and times. There was posted dates in the meeting agenda. I have a problem with the April 16th one because it conflicts with the public schools spring break.
That'll be a problem.
Get a calendar to maybe propose a new date for that one. The week before. Would, instead of April 16th, would April 9th work for everybody?
Yeah.
Yes, all right. Or does it not work for anybody? I'll put it that way.
Doesn't look like there's any holidays on the third Wednesday either, of all the rest of those dates.
For any of the rest of these, there's
Yeah,
no
there's no-
conflicts. When's Thanksgiving?
Thursday.
I know.
You asked.
Is it the 3rd or the 4th?
It's the 28th, 27th, so it's
27th,
it's
okay,
the 4th.
okay. The 19th is good then. I didn't want to do the 19th if the 20th was Thanksgiving.
But you asked when's Thanksgiving.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that, Chris. Where would I be with that?
I know.
What did we say for April?
April 9th,
Yeah, that's fine with me.
right. So let's change April 16th to April 9th, and then the rest of these are good.
I will send that list to,
Perfect.
Jen tomorrow.
Thank you very much. We didn't say for the new thing, the agenda update, where it goes, so I guess we can slip it in anywhere, right? Should we add it to new business? That's where it fits, so. Michelle, do you want to kind of give the background, or do you want me to?
Or I can give a brief background and if gaps, Matt. So we recently received a connection request from a developer of a proposed office suite, and the estimated flow is less than 700 gallons per day. And when this information was shared with our third-party consultant, our consultant came back to us and said, is there a need for me to review this at such a low flow? Or is this something that the desk will review? And also ask the question, is this something that the commission is considering to include in an updated rule determining what a minimum threshold would be for flow metering?
Right. Yeah, so the applicant was asking whether or not they have not completed any flow monitoring yet. They asked if they needed to, given the small flows. My answer right now is absolutely, because we have nothing in place to excuse that. But given the low flows, I wanted to at least bring up, and again, I don't know, this would probably be a rule change, and so we have to go through that whole thing. But before that, I wanted to have a discussion on what is everybody's thoughts on a minimum flow.
This is an existing,
No, it's
a new
new flow, but
building,
I don't know if it's a brand new building.
because wouldn't we use, what if they're not doing a connection?
Is this for,
Connecting, are they doing a new connection or is it an existing connection?
Do you remember the detail? I thought it was a new.
I actually don't know either. I don't think it's in here.
Connection is
I don't recall. I'll find that out.
They've calculated the proposed increase in the flow is 684 gallons per day. So I guess it's an increase, but it's a
It's
pretty small increase.
and the question here is whether to have our consultant reviewing this.
It's less that. I think it's more,
It's too.
should we have a minimum flow to require monitoring? Or are we just saying any increase? Right now, I think my understanding of our rule is if you are a new connection and you are or an existing and you're increasing the flow to our system, we require you to do flow monitoring.
This is only a commercial.
I thought it was just any
connection.
New connection.
Well, you just said existing connection, but increased flow. So like a house that adds 2 bathrooms technically is increased flow, right?
If they're pulling a permit, they'd have to, right?
No, we're not having homeowners do flow.
We don't do that.
No, no. So I'm just trying to figure out what's dictating the rule.
I don't know what the current rule is. My understanding was that it's all, we require, so maybe it's just commercial, but we make everybody who comes in here do flow monitoring.
Yeah, and I don't believe our regulations, John, specify between residential and commercial when it.
If you're adding flow to the system, you're doing.
It'd be, yeah, Matt, I agree with Matt. It probably should, have flow monitoring if they're joining into the main sewer line and all, but.
Right, I just want to make sure we don't get ourselves into a situation where all of a sudden we're triggering that anyone that adds a half bath to their house is all of a sudden doing flow monitoring.
Well, what we're talking about right now would certainly eliminate something like that. I'm talking about so right now, if this person, and I had no mechanism to change anything, if they said, do we have to do flow monitoring? I would say yes, because if I say no to you, then the next person that comes in that I tell them they have to do flow monitoring, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna sue you.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So
I think the first thing to understand is what triggered this person to think that they needed to do flow monitoring.
working in the town.
No, they're adding flow to the system.
Right, exactly.
It's on, the proposal of the development. I mean, if they're gonna put condos in there, it's gonna change, it's gonna be a significant, increase. So,
What is the bathroom? What is the
or is it gonna be just?
size of this thing?
I think it's minimal in this, am I right, Michelle?
Office space for 35 employees.
They have to.
Yeah.
They have to.
But they're increasing it by 700 and something, so they must already have and something existing. They must have taken some out.
Yeah, I don't have the full access to the application or any of that type of stuff, but
And we don't have the application.
We don't have the app.
So this is
They
a-
would have to go through code
Yeah, it's a
enforcement.
situation where
planning,
the
zoning,
applicant reached directly out to our,
There's a lot of applicants that
so
then have to,
something we're resolving. Yeah.
proceed before it's us. And then Michelle and and you guys will make the decision, and we'd have to decide if we go to the outside engineer and everything for the flow monitoring, but
Right.
we don't have a formal application that came from code enforcement or, planning and zoning as to what they're putting up there.
so I mean, our current policy for approving or the way, I don't even know what word to use because it's probably not policy, it's not a rule, but our guiding force on approvals is anything over 80%, we say no, upsize or we don't allow connection. If something is increasing the capacity or increasing the flow within our system by less than 1%, I would be inclined to say flow monitoring is not needed. And so obviously the pipe that they're connecting into, doing back of the napkin calculation, this was not even 0.25% increase to an 8-inch pipe.
All right, so the
If I
question
did
is, do you want to go by that and say it's probably not that, that much that we don't need flow monitoring?
Right.
You want to do it just to.
We would need 4 applicants like this to increase an 8-inch pipe by 1%.
Right.
So I'm not that concerned.
I
Actually, the
completely-
commission's call.
I completely agree. I'm just trying to think here too, because you said they're increasing it by 700. So what are they going by? And then you're kind of like, well, if it's an existing use here and it's say they're adding 8 bathrooms, are we gonna, just say you got a building downtown and they're, okay, well, we got a new tenant. We got to add 5 more stalls and, or we got a new, we're gonna make it into a restaurant.
That would be a different proposal.
But
They're increasing,
number of bathrooms. So,
how is it, it's based on number of people?
so we're calculating flow based on number of people, but then for residential, it's based on, number of bedrooms, correct?
But
Which I had some concerns about the way they did this. I mean, they use 24 hours a day, which I'm not used to that for commercial. I mean, I think their
But it's interesting that you brought,
early flow rates are considerably lower than what
I'm
I'm.
talking about rules, what would be our rule that puts you into flow monitoring
Greater than 1% change in the
of a new,
capacity.
of a new connection or existing connections?
To me, it doesn't matter. So the reason why we do flow monitoring is to make sure that a connection does not have an adverse impact on our entire system. And that impact is the amount of flow that they're contributing to a pipeline. If they are contributing less than 1% of a pipe's capacity, are we really that worried about that applicant?
No,
I'd say no.
I completely agree, but I'm just trying to get our rule down on how we just, what triggers flow monitoring? More than 1%.
I think a change in flow greater than 1% of the pipe's capacity. So it changes based on on the size pipe that you're connecting. An 8-inch,
Change in flow regardless whether it's a new connection or an existing connection.
right? If you have to come before John and say, we're looking to
Yeah.
add a
There's
connect.
Lateral already there, not to cut you off. You know, like, as you said, if it's 1% flow, okay, that's probably acceptable. If it's gonna be a higher flow rate, that's gonna be a different story, then they would need. So regardless if there's a lateral already connected into the sewer system, then that doesn't mean that you can build a condo unit out there, right? So.
But if you have like a change of use in a commercial, not to residential, just a change of business went out and they're, and,
It would have to go through like planning and zoning and,
but does that come to us first?
Many times it comes to us.
No, I'm just trying to get,
Really get ahead
I'm
of
just trying to
the
get the,
curve.
I'm just trying to get the process
But
down.
there's also, many times it comes to us first, but doesn't always come to us first. Sometimes it comes to the code enforcement, first. So it's coming through all of those
Yeah.
departments at once. So there's no set process or standard as to when applicants come in. They could come early, they could come.
Yeah, so that,
But at some point, someone else within town is gonna ask the applicant if they've come before the WPCA. And if the answer is no, then they're
Michelle and I
gonna
usually
require them
do
to,
that.
right?
We
So
would
they can't just bypass
It's
us.
the code enforcement and we're all.
present and represent, you know, WPCA commission and said this, and say, this is the standard, these are our rules, our regulations, and whether it's in compliance, and if we feel that you need flow monitoring, we go to our third-party engineer.
So we would still be required to approve it. It's just we would be approving it without flow data because they would show us that their impact to the pipe capacity is less than 1%. But so I'm asking for, and obviously the board would have to agree then that we implement a new rule that we do not require flow monitoring for de minimis impacts to our system. And we could define that as greater than 1%. Or some other number if everybody's got a different idea. I literally just made that up on the spot, so I'm perfectly fine with iterating.
With a new rule like that, would it have to go to an RTM approval as well?
No. Not a rule. Rules don't,
We go through our.
if it was a new policy.
Got it.
We're not doing a policy.
Got it. Thank you.
But I mean, so what's everybody else's thought on a new rule to negate the need for flow monitoring on small increases?
I'm in favor of that. I think that if somebody came to us and we had them do flow monitoring for 20 gallons over that's not very business friendly. That's not very friendly to anything in our town and is a waste of
Serves
resources.
nobody.
And we're paying our third party to review it then.
Exactly.
So there may also be a different threshold for what we need a third party review for. That may be
Point two.
above that where the commission can take an assessment. I don't know what those numbers would be, but that's my opinion, is that like we shouldn't be wasting resources on something that we know the answer to.
Agreed. Any of you guys, thoughts, opinions?
Let's craft a motion to institute the 1% rule.
I guess what would be next steps here? I think we probably want to work with Phil on this too.
The commission will want to craft language to bring to Phil for
Okay.
his legal review. Yeah.
Okay.
And is 1% appropriate? I mean, is there a way to understand a technical appropriateness to that? Whether it should be 0.5% or 4% or?
I mean, the reason why I wanted to do percent is so that it's not a uniform number, because it matters a lot. I mean, if this was a 4-inch line, they'd be over the threshold.
Do we have?
The exact same amount of flow.
1%.
No idea.
Yeah.
If it's a 10-inch line, then 1,000 gallons per day is going to be as de minimis as the 700 is on an 8-inch line. So as you are tying into a bigger line, it matters less, I guess.
Only because I'm more familiar with residential, but say we were in a C zone and somebody was taking cape, 2-bedroom, 2-bath cape and making a quadplex. So adding, so 8 bedrooms at that point. What kind of impact would something like that have?
I don't know what the flows are.
I just wonder if there's a couple test cases that we teased out with real actual possibilities in our town of things that could happen, whether on a commercial side or a resi side, and what that might look like, and come up with some metrics around
But if it's,
percentage might be.
I agree, but if it's less, if it's 1%, does it really matter? Because if
Well,
it's.
that's what
only
I'm asking.
increasing it from 70 to 71, doesn't matter what it is. If you got a 12-inch line out in front there, do we really care?
I guess my question is whether is 1% correct, or is it 2%, or is it 4%?
I wouldn't want to go above 1%,
Okay, all right, that's what I was asking.
because at some point, if everybody's doing 1%, it's going to add up, and at some point, we're going to start being over 80% and have no way of saying, we want you to test that
By
line.
the same token, what if the pipe's already at 80?
Exactly.
I'm only adding 1%, but
You're at 81 now.
But that would be, but that in the rule, it should be up to the office to, if there's already a known pipe capacity issue, we may require flow monitoring.
agreed.
You know, if it's less than 1%, or up to the office, if there's already pipe capacity issues.
Which is a rule we have to put in place as well.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like we need Phil's guidance on, to make sure it's not too arbitrary that wouldn't pass. Like that somebody could just sue us because
Like
we're
if
arbitrary.
you said in the view of the WPCA, if the WPCA thinks there may be a pipe capacity issue, then the rule would kick in. You can't have that without
Right,
putting some
exactly.
better language around it. Yeah.
How many traveling smart covers do we have?
At the moment, none.
So it might take a little bit to craft something, because we might have to put
Yeah, so we got to think that one through a little.
might have to put a percentage rule in place first before we do a percent increase.
Yeah, I mean, technically that 80% that we're currently following is a guideline that is not a rule.
So then we should probably look at the rules to
Make
make
that
that
up.
one, and then we could do a increase of 1%, because I agree, how is someone gonna say, well, what's your pipe capacity issue? Where's your rule that you do have one?
Right, exactly.
Like Rob's saying.
Okay.
So I guess if the people are looking for an answer, yes, they will have to do flow monitoring, because there's no rule in place.
That is the answer
Which
now.
is what I had said 3 minutes ago. I was just like, my answer today is,
We apologize, but.
That's your answer.
yeah, exactly. My answer right now is yes. However soon we can get a policy like this or rule in place, The answer might someday soon be no, but
We might open up Pandora's box here and.
yeah, exactly. All right, thank you, everybody. Good discussion. We've got some homework. Item number 5, operational status updates. WPCF benchmarking.
Okay, expanding on the trip that Michelle and I took up to South Windsor to look at their UV installation and capital project procurement policies and rules and regulations. Michelle, Matt, and I took a ride to Stamford 2 weeks ago and kind of picked their brains on how they do what they do. It's pretty impressive. They have a very tight, very robust capital project plan. And one thing is in the queue, and when that's done, they go to the next one. And anyway, we saw the new UV installation. Again, quite an impressive feat. They do have a few wiggle room items that we don't have right now, but they kind of go with the standard design bid build. We were looking at progressive bid or progressive design build. So it was interesting to hear. They gave us a sample of their procurement policy. We've been going through it. We've been talking to purchasing and finance and trying to get a direction to go to start our capital project list. So it's been quite helpful and quite enlightening. And I would offer to anybody on the commission, the next trip we plan to, if I'll send you when we're going and if you could come.
Milford sounds like a very similar plant as we are running, similar in size, similar in needs to an extent.
Milford?
Milford, yeah, the projects that they've undertaken recently are projects that we'll be looking to undertake over the next couple of years for sure. And then there also, was it Milford who's also upgrading pump stations or about to upgrade pump stations?
I believe it was Milford, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be, I think, another worthwhile site visit if anyone wants to join John and I.
Please let me know. I'd like to attend if the calendar lines up.
Sure. I will send it out to everybody. And if you could make it that day, then the more the merrier.
Yeah, that sounds good. Cool. Yeah, that was a very enlightening day.
Yes, it was.
Good one.
Yeah.
Out of Stanford.
Yeah. Bill Brink runs the Stanford plant. He was working with Stearns and Wheeler when we did the upgrade in 2000. And I gave him kudos at the beginning of his little spiel. I said, listen, Bill remembers everything. No, don't give me. And then he started just rattling off numbers and everything that happened 24 years ago. He's very,
Wow.
he's got it up here.
How many gallons a day does Stanford do?
Their max capacity is 68.
You're like at 24 or something?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
System.
Yeah, they probably got half their drainage was still hooked up into the.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Any,
Did you want to talk about sludge disposal costs at all or benchmarking?
No, it's quite depressing.
Good.
oh God, yeah.
I figured this one was gonna come around.
Own edification.
Yeah, they've got a good thing going. Can't
Oh,
piggyback.
yeah, Stanford received some data from other
Oh, okay.
WPCAs. Yeah.
It's not cheap. And believe you me, I asked Stanford, I go, so how's this whole dryer thing working? Do you have extra capacity? They're like, well, I go, I'm just wondering, but no, they don't have any. And they have a dryer. So they don't compost, but it's a similar product at the end for land application. So they contract their sludge disposal through Synagro. Synagro runs the dryer, then markets the product and sends it out. Most of it goes to New York State. So the whole PFAS thing is coming into play with them as well. I reached out to a few plants and I forgot to bring the paper, but getting a kind of an idea of how much they're being charged and for incineration, and it's,
Greenwich was, I got this right, 6,300 tons per year at 800K.
Yep.
Couldn't believe it.
So how many tons?
6,300. So if we're at 5,000 roughly on average, you're looking at.
back of the napkin calculations I did back when we were getting the compost machine, it was right at that $1 million mark. But the problem is but there's no place that can take it. There's just no capacity. And we had kind of a backup with We Care Denali because they run a composting facility just over the line in New York. But now with the new regulations, cake solids and PFAS stuff, it's like, we can't do it.
How does PFAS stuff tie into that?
They don't want sludge that's composted or dried that is used as a soil amendment to be applied to the land because the PFAS is now getting in the ground and could leach out into a stream.
Right, water sources.
Right, but the PFAS is in the paper?
PFAS is everywhere. It's in sludge, it's in water, it's in it's in the ground, it's everywhere. It's just the new thing to go after.
How many tons a year of sludge do we have? Greenwich, what is 6,300?
From what I remember from the 503 report, we do like 503 dry metric tons a year. Why they want it in that? Yeah. So real quick, right now we're running 7 days a week. So we're doing 30,000 gallons, which comes out to 4 loads at 28,000 pounds a day times 365. And going back to capital improvement and replacing the belt press and the GBT, if you're sending cake sludge out to an incinerator, they want 22+% solids. If it's not that, they're not taking it. And with our stuff, we're at 14 or 15. So even if we wanted to send it, they're not gonna take it. They won't take it because it's too wet.
Yeah, so we're running like a little over 5,000 tons a year. So we'll be around the Greenwich. If Greenwich is at 6,300 and $125 a ton, $650,000.
It's probably more than that.
Yeah.
Because you gotta put trucking in there and everything else. And I did somebody broke it down like this long. It was this much for polymer, this much for this much for this. I mean, they gave me labor, electricity, and everything, but I forget where that was, but.
UConn.
Was it UConn?
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to Ryan at UConn? It's like pushing a snowball over the cliff because he can talk to you about wastewater, to the 9th degree for days. He's a smart guy.
Anything else on benchmarking?
I think that was enough.
I think so too. All right, capital improvement project updates, secondary digester cleaning and repair.
Okay, obviously it's all cleaned. The rails have been replaced. The plates that are covering where they cut the windows in to replace the rails are almost done. So the next job is to paint those plates, inspect, pull the scaffolding out, and start filling it.
So I still have time.
You still have time to go in. Yes, you do, because we have to do an inspection. And I highly recommend this tour. I really do, because you're never going to get this opportunity again.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Again, the condition inside the tank for the most part was very good. So rails done, rollers done. The new pressure relief is installed. The gas piping with the new flex joints is installed. So it's close. And it's going to get real cold this weekend. We're concerned about the outside. We have a plan in place to keep the tanks outside safe.
Frozen.
I hope.
Next 2 days
Sunday,
Friday, Saturday.
for a site visit, I mean,
Huh?
for a tour,
you tell me when. I'll take
tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah, come on down.
Any other questions on digester cleaning and repair? Attorney Creek siphon.
Turkey Creek siphon is probably gonna turn into Turkey Creek gravity pipe. The engineer seems to think that that's what they can do. Right now, they're bypass pumping that started back. I forgot when I told you at the last meeting, but they are having some operational issues with the pumps. They're plugging. They installed a honey pot, which is trying to grab the rags before they go into the pump. It's an ongoing problem. They're looking to us to find out why. We're canvassing the area, but it's 2/3 of the town's flow. There's rags in the water and they're gonna get caught, so. Not to say that this is a good thing, but this is kind of pushing them to say, hey, we're gonna get your pipe in, get it in now, get everything flowing through it, we can stop the pumping, which will make the neighbors happy and I think us happy too, because bypass pumping 2/3 of the flow, 24 hours a day, for
I think
9 months is a lot. Terry Contracting is okay, though. I don't have anything bad to say about them. They're just sending guys there at 2 o'clock in the morning and, you know, on Thanksgiving and whatnot. It is what it is.
You set up a grinder on a temporary?
They do have them.
They're not working?
They're not cheap.
Right.
So they have not
Yeah,
explored that avenue.
They're clogged by themselves.
The good thing is they do have 4 pumps. Flow is kind of on the lower side, so they're
Okay.
benefiting from that.
Right. Any other questions on that one? East trunk replacement.
Contract's been executed, so December 2nd, huge milestone.
That's exciting.
Executed with contractors Kelowna, and the engineer is D&B.
Right.
There's been an initial introductory meeting with staff from our capital projects and operations office. They'll be taking on the project from engineering, who's been shepherding it along to this point. There is a kickoff meeting that should be scheduled within the next month. The contract's been executed.
Sounds good.
Yep. Contract has a 600-day sunset. So
Okay. When does I'm assuming the contractor's gonna be submitting a schedule
when
prior to the kickoff or?
I do not know.
Michelle,
That's
what's
fair.
the target date to break ground and start digging?
I don't know what the target date is for that. I think it's all comes along with Matt's question about has the contractor shared a schedule, which I have not seen one yet. I don't know when we're expecting that to come in or if it's going to be part of our kickoff meeting. I'll definitely update this commission next month.
Yeah, that sounds good. Cool. Thank you. Good news.
Yeah, thank you.
About time.
I think the target date was like summer of 2017 or something.
10 years.
That sounds about right. Phase 5 I&I.
Good news, the final bid documents
There we go.
were received by the town yesterday from Wright Pierce. So we're moving right along to advertise on or by January 9th. Project's on schedule and within and actually under budget when it came to this design.
Nice.
So yay.
Did they have a engineering cost estimate with the bid doc or no?
Received yesterday and I'll admit I haven't looked at it.
I was just curious what their estimated rehab number was. So I think it was 3 million or so at the onset redesign.
I think it's somewhere just below that.
That
2.8.
Doing pretty good.
Sounds good. Any other questions on phase 5 I&I? Phase 1 pump stations, Fairfield Beach, Center Street, and South Pine Creek.
So good news.
That's right, we're all.
We've received the revised, well, I shouldn't say revised, I'm jumping ahead. We received the draft Phase 1 investigation evaluation report from Ty and Bond. We received that on December 13th, so it's within engineering's review, and John and I are queue to review and provide feedback to the consultant by the new year. Ty and Bond has asked to join this commission's meeting in January for our monthly. So they would like to give this commission an update as to where the project stands and answer any questions that you all have. We did resolve the contract schedule with Ty and Bond since last month's report out to this commission. So the question had come up internally because project managers internally have changed in shepherding this project. So the schedule outlined in that executed contract had indicated that this report we just received on the 13th was 7 months overdue. And working with Ty and Bond through what exactly happened, we found that the schedule identified in that contract had never been updated after DEP had received the draft contract, and it sat with the state for a period of time. And after that, it sat internally here for a period of time. So we entered into the contract already being 7 months late, but we never updated the schedule.
Okay.
So actually, this receivable is timely.
Okay.
For the initial report. Just wanted to make that clarification here tonight.
Thank you. Any other questions on Phase 1? Phase 2 pump stations.
Phase 2, also good news. So we received the final report. It was revised from what the town received in July. The project manager at the time in the engineering department had some significant comments that were addressed by Ty and Bond, and we've accepted the report as of the 13th. So that is final.
Sounds good. Is Mill River Force Main part of Phase 1 now?
So Mill River Force Main isn't
That's it.
Phase 1. So it still needs to be authorized. So I think that the commission has approved, and we need to bring this to the Board of Selectmen for them to approve. So I think we have to go through the entire process, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and RTM to get that project going.
So that's going to end up just being a
We're gonna pull that.
completely new line item under our capital improvement. And so wait, refresh my memory. I know we approved design funding?
So we had a proposal of 200,000 for design.
Okay. Yeah. But that hasn't been, so that has to go through all the channels before it gets authorized?
Because the way we've been going about the bonding, so we have bonding that's in the queue to be authorized on our capital plan. And it's inclusive of design and construction.
Mhm.
So we're going through the series of boards to receive that approval.
So anticipating then design start on the Fourth Main early next year then? Ideally?
Within the first quarter of calendar year.
Right. Okay. That sounds good. Then last but not least, WPCF equipment upgrades UV disinfection system.
And I know John gave an introductory of what we've been doing with benchmarking. Internally, we have handed off the information that John and I have put together to date, plus the specs of our existing UV system over to our capital projects and operations office. Ball's in their court now, so to speak, when it comes to drafting up an RFQ to get this out. It's not only going to be for the UV system, it's going to be for our highest priority, or high priority, what was identified as high priority in the Woodard and Kern equipment condition assessment report. We're asking for flexibility, so we could bob and weave as we need to under that contract. So we're looking for early January. I think that office has an internal goal of January 9th to get that draft RFQ to John and I to take a look at, and then over to purchasing. And John and I met with Adam Tulin, their purchasing director, today to talk about that.
We had a good conversation. That was a very positive one. So
Excellent.
We shared our entire list of priorities and timing of those.
Did he get kicked out?
no, he handled it well.
That's good.
Handled it well. He might have freaked out when he walked out, but he was good.
Like the UV. Did you bring him cookies beforehand?
Adam's a runner.
Oh, okay. Like some blue bars or something. Come on.
Any questions on capital improvement projects? Moving on to the other category, PFAS monitoring at WPCF.
So we shared the results with the commission from our November monitoring. So that was the influent, effluent. That was the first time we grabbed samples of the actual wastewater streams. And then continued on with, actually, this was just our compost that we had sampled in November. Results for compost, no significant changes there. It's all within the same range. Influent, effluent, I think what we could look at definitely is DEP's study that they had performed at select POTWs a few years back. I haven't looked, I looked at that years ago when the results of the study were released. They are posted publicly on the department's website. So if we want to get an idea of where we stand when it comes to other POTWs in the state, influent, effluent, we can take a look at that. The data to me didn't signal any particular red flags. It is sort of is what it is. It's typical of municipal wastewater concentrations of PFAS at this time. John and I and our chemist at the WPCF met with We Care Denali just this week to talk with them about markets for our biosolids. It was an important discussion we had to have. So this is with their regional executives, really vice presidents of the company that we met with. They're concerned, they want to ensure that they're in compliance as well. So we are going to be sharing our routine monitoring results with them. So we're monitoring now on a formal quarterly schedule. And they're going to be sharing with us, sending us over a revised service agreement because this affects who they could provide the soil amendments to. So it's likely going to go to New York or Massachusetts, not going to be land applying in Connecticut due to the Public Act.
And what, has Connecticut given any,
Connecticut has
Dates on
been
these?
silent now,
so
and
they've got, given no guidance or anything on
they
this?
don't have any guidance to share at this time, right? Yeah, and I've been coordinating directly with their assistant director for the
Okay.
municipal facilities program, so they're not prepared to share anything at this time.
Any other questions? I was looking at the sample data.
It's like, I think we all knew where it was. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, this is just, this is a very temporary fix, so to speak, when it comes to placement of our material, because New York has certain thresholds in place. And we may or may not meet those thresholds regularly. Massachusetts does not yet have those thresholds in place, but they're going to. So,
But until Connecticut gives guidance, what else are you gonna be able to do? We were kind of stuck.
so I have reached out to our state legislators in regards to this quandary that we're in, because this is very specific to Fairfield WPCF.
Why is it different for us than other?
Because we're composting. We're the only facility in Connecticut that's composting.
Okay.
Everybody else incinerates.
So everybody has the PFAS issue, but we have the land application.
So what are we doing in the interim?
we are not going to be land applying in Connecticut. We're going to be sending the material to other states to land apply. Woohoo! But that's very, very temporary. Yeah, it will increase our costs. So this will
Yeah.
increase our costs for sure.
Any other questions on PFAS? Capital improvements and long-term financial plan.
This is really just an update to get on this commission's radar. October 17th, WPCA was charged with developing a long-term financial plan at Board of Finance's Fund Balance Borrowing and Debt Service Committee special meeting. And that item is now a standing agenda item on that committee's, I think it's monthly report out. On November 19th, they held a follow-up meeting, requested that WPCA commit to a date by which a long-term financial plan will be presented to that committee. The first step in developing that plan is for us to ensure that we have a reliable long-term capital plan. That's where we're at right now. So John and I have been working with our finance departments to resolve some inconsistencies and questions on the draft capital plan that's been in place since I think it's September of this past year. We will be, our internal goal is to firm that up by the end of this month. And we are looking to present it to this commission in January. Board of Finance, their special committee, after the new year, I think they're meeting on the 9th. We can choose, if we have the ability, scheduling wise, to hold a special meeting if the commission would like to review the capital plan before bringing it to the Board of Finance subcommittee meeting on the 9th. Or I could attend the subcommittee meeting on the 9th and just let Board of Finance know that the commission has not yet had an opportunity to review the plan and will do so at its January regularly scheduled meeting.
I think my preference would be the latter there versus, I mean, unless there's something that we're time crunch tied to. I don't see a reason to call a special meeting for it. Any questions? GIS.
Just to let the commission know that we've been engaging with MetroCog on improving and expanding upon WPCA's GIS capabilities, our existing capabilities. So this is inclusive of online applications that we are using and can make better use of, and then also adding additional data to our existing layers. This does come with a cost, and it's a minor cost overall. But I think that the benefits far outweigh the minor costs of these services. And so the things that we're talking with MetroCog about adding is our flow metering data. So I think something that'll be really beneficial when it comes to us being able to make our decisions and also informing our applicants. Inspection footage and reports. So this is the videos, inspection findings, and then also our permits, which will help us also making our decisions and then help what John's doing in the sewer department greatly as well. So these are things that we're looking to add to our existing system.
Those are one-time costs, or these are like maintenance, ongoing costs?
Yeah, so the upfront cost in expanding our mapping tool capabilities, MetroCog is going to cover at no cost, but it's the maintenance that we're looking to enter in, like an on-call services agreement with MetroCog on. They said $130 an hour, and we're anticipating about $5,000 as a starting amount. So it's like about.
That's just like updating, giving them new information and updating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, that would be great for everyone, residents and.
100%, 100%.
Huge improvement.
We're a little outdated with that.
Yeah.
As you're right now.
But you brought up our sewer use map. So this is something that I think would definitely be of assistance when it comes
Oh,
to
definitely.
accessible.
Which ties into item number 4, hydraulic bottle.
So RFP went out to bid November 21st, closed on December 12th. We received two bidders, Corallo and CDM Smith. So right now, ball is in my court really to develop the quals review committee. But just to let the commission know that we are limited on internal resources to staff that committee. So discussions are underway and identifying who will be able to join me in the committee.
Right.
Date next month as to where that's at. I don't want to stall it, but.
If you need a hand, be more than happy to help out where I can.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much for offering that, Chris.
I think I was assigned this 2 years ago.
We met by the reservoir and I handed you off. the
Yeah,
binder.
I got a whole binder. We traded binder. I met by the reservoir, 6 a.m. There you go.
Covert
I
operation.
still have it. I was on that, I've been on that committee for 2 years. I've been told up.
Subcommittee?
Subcommittee. The rules,
The
the
modeling,
policy, the
modeling subcommittee,
modeling subcommittee.
member of one.
Is it serious? Does that mean you volunteered? to
Yes,
be on the
no,
call?
seriously, yes. Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Subcommittee.
Yes. Yeah, I like that stuff.
Any questions? None? MIUGP.
Again, just to get this on the commission's radar, state of Connecticut issues and owns industrial user general permit. And this permit, although issued and owned by State Deep, it's actually in the local authorities court to process the take in and process the registrations under this general permit, and then also ensure compliance to a point. The state is the issuer of the permit, so ultimately the state is the enforcement arm, but the state is relying heavily upon the local WPCFs to manage this universe. In Fairfield, we at our WPCF, we don't see ill effects of significant industrial usage of our system, which is great. But something we could consider is industrial user survey at some point in time to better understand who those users are. I put this on tonight's agenda though, specifically because this permit is coming up for reissuance. The state plans to reissue it by October of 2025, and there's going to be a couple of significant changes in it. One is the state's broadening their definition of industrial user. So Connecticut historically has been more conservative in EPA's approach to defining what a significant industrial user of the sanitary sewer system is. And now the state is cutting back on that more conservative definition and is following the federal rule. So this is going to actually place more of a burden on us because it's going to expand our universe potentially. It's also, state's also removing a PECHMM certification requirement under that permit. So these registrations are going to come into us without necessarily having been reviewed by somebody who's licensed. So again, that's potentially increasing the burden on John and I and our team at the WPCF. And then the state's also adding the discharge of groundwater remediation wastewater to the discharges under that permit that was previously covered under a separate general permit. The registrations of which were always being reviewed by state of Connecticut as the final official authorizer of those registrations. But now those are going to be coming to the municipalities instead without the state's oversight. So just a few things for the commission to be aware of that, could potentially affect us here. Again, we're not seeing any symptoms of significant industrial use at our facility, but we also don't have a good picture of who those industrial users are out there. I think something for us to especially consider as we move forward with evaluating our sewer use rates and surcharges potentially on industrial users, we might want to look more closely at who our industrial users actually are. it could assist us.
How many do we currently have? And do we have any idea what the anticipated increase is gonna be?
We don't have
Or the answer to either of those?
Right, no, we don't have, there's one that we know of, one SIU, a metal finisher.
We've been monitoring them for forever.
But they're not the ones, it's all the little ones
Right, yeah.
out there.
Questions? All right. We've come to the end of our posted agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Happy holidays.
Happy
Thank you
holidays.
all.
Holiday.
All
Enjoy.
right, see you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.